and Java's orange grows. Microchips is us. iPhone cameras us. Taco salads us. Toda lavamos us. Olive Garden us. White cloth for us. Sabra Hamas. Hezbollah us.
Hola e seja bem-vindo to Bad Hasbara.
O podcast mais moral do mundo.
Yes. Me llamo, I don't know how to say. My name is Matt Lieb, and I will be your world's most moral Portuguese co-host.
I'm Daniel Mate, and the guy from Bad Hasbara goes walking. You know?
Oh, yes. Beam, 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 beam. I love, listen, if you're out there, you're in Portugal or Brazil, let's say, Brazil. We mean no offense to you and your hilarious language. It just sounds strange. It's very fun. It's a beautiful language when spoken and sung.
And when sung. Oof.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we all love us some, Gilberto, whether it's
João or some Seu Jorge.
Yeah.
Or, from the Wes Anderson
That's right.
soundtracks.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
You
got a great language out there, and we love it, even though it sounds like a deaf Frenchman speaking Spanish. Today we have a wonderful show. Please give us 5 stars in a review. Don't mention that previous joke. And also, I just want to let you guys know that I have some wonderful comedy dates coming up. Yes, I know I've annoyed you in the past, and it's happening again. But we're going to be, Francesca and I are doing a bunch of shows. We're going to be in both Houston, and we're going to be in Seattle. Coming up very soon. So please, if you are in Seattle, this is August 1st and August 2nd. On August 1st, we will be at Laughs Comedy Club in Seattle. On August 2nd, we're going to be doing the Bituation Room live in Seattle at the Rainier Arts Center. So please get your tickets now, or go to Houston August 28th. See us at the Punchline in Houston. Ticket link in bio. Today's episode is brought to you by Islamic Relief USA. Islamic Relief has been working in the Middle East since 1997 and is currently providing food aid, clean water, educational resources, and healthcare in Gaza. If you have any money to give, it would be much appreciated. You can donate now at irusa.org. That's irusa.org. Before we get to this next segment, for those of you who are listening, you're not going to notice anything. You're going to be like, this is just another episode of Bad Hasbara, my favorite podcast that I listen to, not watch, because I am over 40. But
if you are watching, you might notice Daniel's face looks a little sunburned.
Right. You'll say, well, that's because you climbed the mountain today.
I climbed a volcano today.
Jesus. That is, it's very cool, but
aren't you? Jew versus the volcano.
Yeah. Aren't you worried? It's a Joe versus volcano joke for those of you who don't know. It's a great movie. Yeah. Aren't you worried about the lava? Anyways.
It was a volcano that erupted it did 10 days ago.
Yeah.
Mount Netta. Yeah. It was quite a hike.
Yeah. I guess there was no more lava. They cleaned up all the lava.
They cleaned up all the lava. It cleaned up real good.
Mr. Lava. Shaggy. But if you are someone who is
Michael, I think I told you I'm a lava, not a fighter.
Yeah. Mr. Boombastic, we have a fantastic episode. But if you're watching, you'll notice maybe the video looks a little bit different. With this episode, StreamYard went down right before the recording. So we switched over to Zoom. So obviously things are going to not be as look as good. But also because of that, we did things in sort of a little bit out of order. So for today's What's the Spin, we actually recorded it at the end of the episode with our wonderful guest, Anthony Fantano. So you will be seeing him for the What's the Spin, and then we will be reintroducing him because that is how pre-recorded podcasts work. You edit
And speaking of pre-recorded, folks, I just want you to just put yourself in my position for a second.
Yes, please.
And imagine, you know how excitable I get about records and music and talking about them at length and, making you wait for the actual substance of the show because I want to
Yeah,
I want to just
you want to wax poetic about
wax poetic. Yeah, very good. Wow, nice.
Why you? Sometimes you treat me like I'm dumb, man, but I'm smart. I'm very smart.
So how do you think I reacted when I found out that we were getting the internet's busiest music nerd on this podcast? I mean, it's cool enough that Anthony, given, and we speak to him about this, given what his main focus is, what he's known for, which is music reviews of all kinds, is speaking out about politics. Turns out that's not such a lane shift for him, given his background and his interests and all that. But that aside, I mean, I really had to come correct with what's the spin today. So I actually recorded something. I pre-recorded something back home in New York before I left on this trip, knowing we'd be interviewing him. Yes. And so it was, the giddiness, I think, was quite palpable.
Thrill of a lifetime. And Anthony was nice enough to be able to stick around for a bit to watch the What's the Spin and to comment on it, which is lovely. So I will now toss over to myself and this. Daniel, what's the spin?
Well, Matt, I'm so glad you asked. Anthony, I'm sure you'll be able to tell what all these records behind me have in common. For those not in the know, these are all albums that Anthony has given a 10 out of 10 to. That's in honor of you, but I wanted to select some records that I consider perfect 10s that you haven't reviewed or that I haven't seen you review. Number one, and I'm sure you wouldn't disagree, Company Flow, Fun Crusher Plus, the 1997 full-length from the underground hip-hop classic trio of Mr. Len, Big Juss, and of course, the mighty LP, later to find fame with Run the Jewels. Angel Dust by Faith No More. I think Faith No More gets a bad rap. Either they get written off as a one-hit wonder, or they get lumped in with vastly inferior so-called nu metal or funk metal groups that were completely indebted to them. I can't recommend this album enough. I think it's a perfect 10. And honestly, Anthony, you got enough people in your comments begging you to review it. So I hope you will. And then a couple of albums looking at relationships from very different angles. Number one, Court and Spark by Joni Mitchell. I'd be hard-pressed to name Joni's best album. For me, it wouldn't be Blue. Pretty much everything that came immediately after Blue, from For the Roses through Hajira, is actually superior to Blue, more interesting, more ambivalent, and musically more adventurous. I chose this one just because it's so slick with that LA Express sound and so many great songs about insecurity and ambivalence in relationship. And then the Afghan Whigs, Gentleman, from the early 90s, really gets into the weeds of what these days is known as toxic masculinity and all of the dark, twisted psychology and emotions of that in a very honest and faithful way, I think. Great playing by the entire band, and Greg Dully's lyrics and vocals are really classic. While on the shelf behind me, there is 3 Feet High and Rising somewhere. But for my money, this is where I think they really found their most unique and exciting form. Prince Paul's production has never been more soulful and funkier, and their rapping is at its most oblique here, and I think that really serves them. I know we've got Bitches Brew on the shelf, but for my money, In a Silent Way is Miles Davis's best. And finally, Anthony, I know you're probably going to disagree with this one, but I selected it on purpose because I think you need to reconsider. I'm going to make an appeal to you that
Don't say
Asia
Steely Dan.
No. When I heard you speaking about it, you were caricaturing it as smooth, insipid
jazz rock,
which I think really does a disservice. This is not Kenny G. This is some funky shit. And artists from De La Soul all the way up to MF Doom, hip-hop artists, producers have understood that the Steely Dan catalog is a treasure trove of some of the tastiest moments in music. But what I think often gets missed is the lyrical skill. They're incredibly precise, very sardonic, not always easy to understand off the jump, but if you just take a look at them and soak in the songs a little bit and get into the characters that are being portrayed, there's a deep sense of humor, irony, and on this album also some poignancy with tracks like Deacon Blues. So that's my pitch, Asia, Steely Dan. I think it's a perfect 10. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Transition. Am I doing this right?
Beautiful.
I need to get into Afghan Wigs, and I'm also an appreciator of late era Joni, especially the jazz fusion stuff. Unfortunately, that also includes the album where she has blackface, which is also very weird.
Don Juan's Restless Daughter.
Right.
Wait, she's wearing
daughter, yeah.
blackface, or
On the cover.
Yes.
On the cover, she's dressed up as her character Art Nouveau, a black man with a mustache and a top hat. And she once showed up at a party in New York City, like a music industry party, and no one knew it was her. She dressed up as him. But Mingus made right after that album. Mingus made his last project with her. Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, Prince's favorite. I'm not saying, oh, black people like her, so that's cool.
Right.
But black people love her.
And we made we all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes.
I used to
I don't
be.
think I don't think she's ever
one-man-
recanted.
I used to be a one-man Bone Thugs and Harmony acoustic cover band, and that probably is not the best time of my life. Probably should have.
You changed some lyrics, though, didn't you, Matt?
It took a while for me to change certain lyrics, and I learned later in life that Matt, I shouldn't do all the lyrics.
Tell me what you're gonna do.
When
cancellation comes for you.
My friend, we're having a wonderful day. That's first of the month. Anyways,
thanks for humoring me on that, Anthony.
Yeah.
No, thanks for doing the video. It was fun.
All right, everyone. Now it is time to get to the portion of the show where we introduce our guest. I am super excited about this guest. We've been back and forth trying to get him scheduled for a bit now. And Daniel, I know that you can't contain yourself. You're so stoked. Look at you.
The music trivia and lyrical references, incontinence it's just spilling out of the seams of my cerebral underwear.
Of your loins, your brain loins are wet with anticipation.
Yeah.
You know him from, of course, the Needle Drop. He is the internet's busiest music nerd. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, welcome to the podcast, Anthony Fantano. What's up, dog?
Hey, how you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
Hey,
How are you
Anthony.
doing?
I'm doing good. We need a big horn intro or something.
Yeah, we'll add that in post. There'll be,
Or maybe an air horn.
yeah, we can do the reggae horn. We have like a soundboard, but it's a lot of inside jokes, just like
You're emotionally damaged, Jewishly.
you're Jewishly emotionally damaged. We
That's
have this
not
for
who
no
telling you
reason.
from.
What's this one?
Crazy Jews.
Crazy Jews.
Yeah,
That's Anthony. No, your name's Anthony. That's Benjamin Netanyahu saying crazy Jews. Anthony, first, thank you for coming on. We're always stoked when we get someone to come on the pod who's not necessarily from the world of like politics and stuff or whatever. And for a lot of people in a lot of different industries, this issue seems to transcend politics. It's like not even political for a lot of people. It's moral. And
But that, of course, that leads us to our first question.
does it?
I think it
that
does.
was an
which
accident.
is, well, no, it's perfect segue. Anthony,
Yeah,
we discussed this in advance, Matt. We agreed on what the first question would be.
we did, but I forgot.
You did. You forgot. So I'm going
Yes.
to take it right now. I'm going to
Okay.
take the fucking ball and run with it. Anthony,
Yeah.
how the hell does the internet's busiest music nerd have the time and the bandwidth in his schedule to have a moral conscience? How do you juggle these things?
How are you so good? Talk about how good you are. No, I'm just kidding.
I just follow politics very closely and graduated with a concentration in political science from where I went to college, and originally had sort of aspirations to be a news reporter of some type or stripe when I originally got out of college, and kind of being a radio disc jockey didn't really seem like a great idea after the housing bubble had popped in 2008, and a lot of those jobs were getting kind of cleared out, and obviously like the ongoing corporatization of like music radio and so on and so forth. But I ended up kind of like getting back into doing a music show through a podcast for the NPR station where I was interning, which kind of rolled into a blog and the YouTube channel and so on and so forth. But like over the course of all of that time, I never stopped following and paying attention to world affairs.
Yeah.
To the point where it has been sort of like this consistent thing since like the beginning of my YouTube channel, where I'd like, sometimes every once in a while, like mention something or bring up something in a record or tweet about something that's like politically related. And people are like, why are you talking about this?
Right.
Don't talk about politics.
And
why
I've
are you
seen-
talking about politics?
I've seen
Don't
that,
talk about that.
in some of your comments occasionally. You'll see people just go like, well, why are you even bringing up politics? This isn't you. This isn't your channel. I've seen it more so when you have been speaking out about Palestine, which I find to be interesting.
That sounds coincidental to me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's absolutely a coincidence.
I mean, I've even been getting it lately with some of the video clips and stories I've been sharing about everything going on in LA right now and in New York as well. It's always kind of funny because like more than 10 years of like making it clear that this is like something that I just kind of pay attention to. Beyond like where I kind of fall on ideological lines with any of it, it's just kind of funny to be consistently still to this day, like getting comments that are like, why do you pay attention to politics? Why do you post about anything political? And it's like, I don't know.
you go back to-
I live in the world where all of this is happening. I have to live on the same planet as all of this. I
No,
have
you
thoughts
live on
it.
the needle drop. You
Yeah, I
only
live on-
live
Why do you
click
pay
on you.
attention to current events and politics? Can you go back to your review of Evil Empire by Rage Against the Machine and there's a riot going on by Sly and the Family Stone, please?
Yeah,
Right, exactly. And, that's kind of another reason. I feel like if I didn't pay attention to any social issues, like my reviews would be a lot dumber. Like I wouldn't understand the social context for anything being said or communicated in any of the songs I'm reviewing at any given time. And like,
Rage
what would
Against the
po-
Machine conjures an absurdist vision of male cows marching down the street.
Or even something that's as silly or perceived to be as casual as like a Billie Eilish song about the way a young girl has to sort of like wrestle with something like body image issues, like
Right.
even something as simple as that, like I would, whatever's being said on a track like that would just completely fly over my head and I would have no sort of like, perspective or frame of reference for any of it if I didn't like pay attention to social discourse. I mean, it's like,
Right.
Art is downstream from the culture that it exists in and that it's created within. I mean, a lot of art is made, whether artists intend for it to be or not, as a reflection of the world that it's existing in.
Right.
I mean, if you don't understand the world you're existing in to some degree, like how do you interpret the art that's coming out of it? So, I mean, to me, like, again, outside of advocating for any kind of like political point of view, at least being aware of the things that are happening and what's like socially going on in the zeitgeist, I think is like pretty essential to understanding, the art that's coming out of it and critiquing it effectively.
I guess a useful counter to the whole stupid stay in your lane, admonishment is, I'm staying in my lanes, plural. These are, this highway is wide and I occupy all this space, and you're not new to this. It's not like you're some person with music opinions who's suddenly deciding, oh, let me have a hot take about politics. You're
Right.
It's all connected. That's a
Yeah.
powerful place to come from.
Yeah. Essentially.
I first became aware, not of you. I was already aware of you for a few years now, because of and we'll get to this at some point. Our shared love of the band Radiohead, I've rarely look at like music reviews online and whatnot, but I would watch you talking about specific Radiohead albums. And I loved the way that you did it, and I thought it was great. But I became aware of your public advocacy for Palestine through, I think it was during the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. You were reacting to Maybe It Was Not Like Us. And I saw that it was a charity stream, or at the very least you were shouting out a charity during that stream for Palestine, and I was like, "What? Holy shit! Is Fantano a pro-Palestine person?" And beyond that, then I've seen you more and more doing more public advocacy for it. Before we get into talking about Radiohead, I do want to talk to you about that beef, Drake versus Kendrick. I don't know if you know this, but Kendrick is being sued by Drake for the beef, and for many reasons, including, and this is real, for anti-Semitism.
It's an unkosher beef.
Yeah, it's a very unkosher beef. In the lawsuit, one of the clauses says, furthering the recording's refrain that Drake is, quote, not like us. The recording alludes to Drake's Jewish heritage, saying that Drake is, quote, not a colleague, but, quote, a fucking colonizer.
Well, that's telling on yourself, isn't it? If you hear the line, you're not a colleague, you're a fucking colonizer, and your mind goes to your Jewishness, there's something wrong.
Yes, that is also my personal opinion. Can I ask you, Anthony, when you heard that line, did you immediately think anti-Semitism, or do you think it's speaking to something else?
Yeah, I don't think the line was trying to speak to, I don't know, like what's going on in the West Bank or anything like that. I don't think Drake has any sort of like personal connection, or I believe even like I don't know the man well enough to say whether or not he has a strong opinion on it. I know early on he was quick to adopt this letter that was going around announcing or sort of calling for a ceasefire.
That's right.
Before some other celebrities, including Kendrick Lamar, had said any such, and any such thing about the issue. Mm-hmm. I don't think, Drake is being characterized by Kendrick like that over that matter. I don't think it has anything to do with his Jewishness as much as it has to do with what Kendrick and a lot of people perceive to be as him being culturally outside of hip hop due to the way that he was raised and his family ties and so on and so forth. And I feel like, these are things that you could legitimately disagree with and take umbrage with as, a Drake fan, a Drake supporter. But it cuts a lot of different ways too. I mean, without necessarily getting into another issue here, I can't necessarily entirely speak on. There's like a lot of discussions around colorism within the Black community in terms of like how the song is currently being framed, and in terms of like, is this sort of like a negative characterization of all those who may be light-skinned and sort of like,
or mixed
putting
in some way.
Yes, exactly. Or mixed, and putting them underneath, anybody else within the Black community. Like there's a lot of different ways the song could be interpreted. I don't think it's I don't think that assessment of it is accurate, that he's going after Drake's Jewish heritage right there.
Yeah. But who knows?
The entire third verse.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, no, look, the entire third verse is structured like the first verse and the second verse are a series of punches
Pedophile
from
disses.
left and right. Pedophile. This is like coming from all directions. The third verse is a thesis.
Right.
Let me put you all on game. I'm gonna lay out the argument for you. And he says it over and over again. You run to Atlanta for this, for dollars, for street cred, all this kind of stuff. And he concludes it with his concluding sentence: "You're not a colleague, you're a fucking colonizer."
Yeah, he explains what he perceives to be the colonization. He explains the source of it, or what he thinks is sort of colonizing.
I'm more offended as a Canadian than I am as a Jew. But I'm not offended because fuck Toronto and fuck Drake from Vancouver. But in any case, it's an absurd claim from what I can tell.
Yeah, it's clearly ridiculous, and also, like you said, Daniel, it is telling on yourself. You really should. This is the problem I have with a lot of this Hezbollah and a lot of the sort of panic around anti-Semitic dog whistles. Is people will just say something as a dog whistle that ends up being this weird indictment of all Jewish people that no one was making. I'm just grateful, I guess, that they didn't think that him being called a pedophile was somehow Epstein coded, I guess he is called Epstein, but as if that's somehow because he's Jewish. And people have been trying to do that. There was an article in the, I think it was the Jewish Chronicle, talking about how all of this talk of Drake being a pedophile, alludes to a time when Jews were called, sexual, deviant. And I'm like, stop doing this. This is not good for us if you keep trying to make the connections happen. It just makes you're just making people think that we're pedophiles. It's fucked up. We're not, Fantano. Okay? We're not.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, everyone. So we're going to take a quick little break, but please stick around because we will be right back. And we're back. That's right. It's Bad as Bara, world's most moral podcast. And we are going to return to our wonderful episode and interview with Anthony Fantano.
So good.
Moving on from whether or not Drake is a West Bank colonizer or a culture vulture, we're going to talk...
West Atlanta colonizer.
Yeah, or a West Atlanta colonizer. We got to talk about Thom Yorke's reply. I need to start this out by talking about something that happened with a different band. Mm-hmm. The band Imagine Dragons, which is a band that exists, whether I like it or not. They have been, they recently a video came out of them doing a performance in which they unfurled a Palestinian flag. And when I saw this, my first reaction, which I immediately took to Twitter, was, oh my fucking God, now Radiohead has been lapped by Imagine fucking Dragons.
And Dave Matthews Band to boot.
And Dave Matthews Band.
There's a few, and Macklemore. Listen, there's
Mid is the new bass. What's the fuck is going on?
Yes. And it was just one of those things where I have been for a while now not trying to do anything other than complain, but waiting and hoping that maybe Thom Yorke would would speak out about it, because it is something that he has historically done. He has spoken about politics, and I was sitting there waiting for it, and it still hadn't happened. So I did this tweet. It went viral as well. Biggest tweet I've ever had. And then not a day later, Thom Yorke put out his statement. Now, obviously, I don't know whether or not he saw the tweet. As the saying goes, just because you tweet it doesn't mean he's aware. But the question remains: is this my fault? Did I do this, Fantano? Do you think I did?
How viral did the tweet go?
4 million views, and it was lots of retweets and shit. Do you think is this? You can say it's not my fault.
I'm gonna say yes. I feel like this was all you. I think God. No. To own it. Own it. I think it's.
Do you know how disappointing it is? I've loved Radiohead for way too long for this to be how it ends. Before we read the statement, can I just ask you about your history with this band? Are you a fan of the music of Radiohead?
Yeah, I like Radiohead's music. I've never been the biggest fan of the band, mm-hmm. ever in the world. Sure. I think they make great songs. I think they have classic records. Some of my favorite rock records of all time are Radiohead albums, but I mean, you know, I feel like when I originally came into the band, there were maybe I wasn't as enamored with sort of how or sort of, you know, as deep into the perspective that this is like, you know, the deepest, most profound, most mind-blowing band of all time. Because I was already on to sort of like comparatively weirder stuff, you know, but like, you know, kind of came back around after, you know, a very, I guess I would say like a pretentious stint in college where I just like wasn't sort of deep into the tank for Radiohead, and kind of came back around when In Rainbows came out. I was like, okay, well, this is like just one of their best albums ever, you know, which, you know, caused me to sort of like jump back on the Radiohead team a bit. But, you know, with that being said, like, I still think they're a great, amazing band. I've covered their music multiple times, and I always look forward to it every time they have a new record out. I've even covered Thom Yorke's solo stuff and the Smile albums that he's been dropping that I've been enjoying, you know, most of. And, you know, being someone who came of age during the Iraq War, you know, very, very vividly remember Radiohead being one of the few bands who were out there who were kind of like willing to take a stand and say something significant during a time when there was just like a lot of hostility toward anybody who would like, you know, dare question the war on terror and, you know, everything along those lines. So, you know, yeah, I mean, Radiohead's a band that for a long time I've, you know, had a lot of respect for, even if they haven't been one of my favorites musically, at least socially, because like they were willing to say something when a lot of artists weren't, you know, or were afraid of getting like kind of lambasted if they did so. So it was kind of like, you know, even if like I wasn't necessarily taking it personally as a disappointment, like, oh, Tom, why would you? I had so much faith in you. When I first saw like a lot of fans kind of urging them to say something, and they just like weren't coming through and doing so, it still to me read like a bit of an inconsistency, because it's like, well, you know, aren't you guys kind of the Hail to the Thief band? You know, like you guys did kind of like base a bit of an album cycle around this and build your identity around this a little bit. And I mean, this isn't like some kind of, I mean, the whole war on terror is obviously like so deeply ingrained politically into the whole like Middle Eastern, Western imperialism meta, you know, and to sort of like take issue with that as an artist, but then not sort of be able to understand the context of how Israel ties into that, to me just seems like really weird. It seems like you're very much like cherry picking, like in the most obvious way. It would be
Johnny
one
Greenwood
thing,
lives there, am I right?
Yeah.
Johnny Greenwood is actually located there now in the north of Israel.
As far as I know, he at the very least is one of the places that he lives is in Israel, and he's been, you know, very recently making a lot of solo music outside of Radiohead with various like Israeli Arab and Israeli Jewish artists. And I think he recently had one of his shows get canceled at a festival because of that. And he also released a statement regarding you know, sort of his anti-BDS feelings about it. But yes, Tom has, I think at this point, made it very clear, if not explicitly, at least implicitly, that this is an issue he doesn't want to touch because he doesn't want to fuck with the band. Or at least that's kind of how I viewed it, as like it's too awkward for me to make this an issue that we care about, which is like a level of like cowardice that I'm like, come on, man. Like, you've known Johnny since high school. Can't you just talk to him about it?
Yeah, and I happen to know how I spent a bit of time with Ed O'Brien a couple of years ago, not to put him on, you know, on Front Street, but like I know that the band is not entirely unanimous on all this stuff. Of course.
Yeah.
But I think the issue that we are taking, or that we're gonna, you know, what we're gonna dive into here, is not so much the long silence, but how he broke the silence.
Yes.
It's the same thing with like when Brene Brown in the self-help world was silent for the first 4 months or whatever. And then she put out this mealy-mouthed, both sidesy statement. I went to YouTube and made a long video that actually went quite viral as well. And what I was taking her to task for was not, why didn't you go online right away and profess this? But if you're going to break your silence with this, you think you're being neutral. You think you're honoring all human beings. And here's what's completely wrong and backward about that assumption. And, Anthony, I saw you already put out a video with you were responding to this entire screed from Thom Yorke, saying in your own way rather similar things, I think.
Yeah. And we'll be asking you to repeat some of that here for our listeners, but just to read the posts that I'm going to give it a 50-50 chance that I may have accidentally made him do.
Are you going to do the accent, Matt?
I can't do the accent. It's, at this point, it's too many. He's too many slides. I can't. Some guy shouting at me from the dark. My voice, I'll lose it. Yeah. So I'll just do it in my normal voice. Some guy shouting at me from the dark last year when I was picking up a guitar to sing the final song alone in front of 9,000 people in Melbourne didn't really seem like the best moment to discuss the unfolding humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Afterwards, I remained in shock that my supposed silence was somehow being taken as complicity, and I struggled to find an adequate way to respond to this and to carry on with the rest of the shows on the tour. That silence, my attempt to show respect for all those who are suffering and those who have died, and not to trivialize it in a few words, has allowed other opportunistic groups to use intimidation and defamation to fill in the blanks, and I regret giving them this chance. This has had a heavy toll on my mental health.
The notoriously cheerful and mentally stable Thom Yorke has suddenly been plunged into a glum depression.
Now I'm depressed for the first time in my life. I just want to say
he's hit sadness for the first time.
Yeah, I don't know what his feeling is.
I used to be let down and jumping around for joy.
Yeah. He used to be such a chipper.
Yeah. Well, the original lyrics to Let Down was called Happy Town.
Happy Town. Get down.
Get down, jumping around. Him saying, that his silence was, taken out of context. It's like he talks about his silence as like a way to show respect for all those who are suffering. I truly don't understand that sentiment. It's like I think he's mixing the idea of taking a moment of silence and the idea of silence being somehow respectful.
Everyone, please. In honor of all the people suffering in Gaza right now and in Israel, allegedly, however they happen to be suffering too, we will now take a century of silence.
Yes.
Let's begin now.
Can we take a 20-month moment of silence, please, for all the victims suffering and who will be suffering during those 20 months? Yeah. So
a moment of silence that will allow the suffering to continue.
I know. So he says, I would hope that for anyone who has ever listened to a note of my music, my band, or any of the music I've created over the years, or looked at any of the artwork or any of the lyrics, it would be self-evident that I could not possibly support any form of extremism or dehumanization of others. All I see in a lifetime's worth of work with my fellow musicians and artists is a pushing against such things, trying to create work that goes beyond what it means to be controlled, coerced, threatened, to suffer, to be intimidated, and instead to encourage critical thinking beyond borders, the commonality of love and experience, and free creative expression. Sounds
he's anti-borders now?
Yeah, like wait, okay, so he's an anarchist? Like what? I don't know. Sounds naff but true, I guess.
What the hell is naff?
Who knows? Some English thing. It's like sometimes you forget that he's like an Oxford boy.
Yeah.
And then he'll say, sounds naff. I
agree with him. It sounds positively downright naff.
Sounds totally naff. Totally knackered. That means tired. I don't know British shit. For others, let me fill in the blanks now so we're nice and clear. I think Netanyahu and his crew of extremists are totally out of control and need to be stopped, and that the international community should put all the pressure it can on them to cease.
Cease what?
Cease
what, Tom?
And also, are you the international? You're part of the international community. What is pressure other than the pressure of people in communities internationally?
Well, look, to be fair, I think his naming the culprits as Netanyahu is a political statement in that it's a statement of support and complete lockstep solidarity with Bernie Sanders, because that's the only term Bernie will use to refer to the culprits.
And
of the Gaza
also
genocide.
every sort of like liberal Zionist talking point is like, yes, Netanyahu is out of control. And it's like, not that people don't agree with that, but it's like at this point, if your critique of the situation is prime minister is bad, I just don't believe it. I don't believe that Tom is sitting there going like, oh, I don't know much about this. And that'll become perfectly clear in these next few slides.
Well, because of course, also one of the liberal Zionist talking points is we were so close to overthrowing Netanyahu and the crew of extremists in September and October of that month. We were protesting. We were, and we would have succeeded too if it weren't for those blasted Hamasniks.
Yes. Oh, damn. October 7th. Never mind.
Ruh-roh.
So the big slide here, and the one that's being shared the most, is while our lives tick along as normal, these endless thousands of innocent human souls are still being expelled from the earth. For what? At the same time, the unquestioning Free Palestine refrain that surrounds us all does not answer the simple question of why the hostages have still not all been returned. For what possible reason? Why did Hamas choose the truly horrific acts of October 7th? The answer seems obvious, and I believe Hamas chooses to hide behind the suffering of its people in an equally cynical fashion for their own purposes. So, I mean, this is the part where if it had ended, if a slide earlier, I would have been like, seems like kind of like a weak, wishy-washy statement where he refuses to call this what it is, which is a genocide. He refuses to call it what it is, an ethnic cleansing. He refuses to take any ownership or to point a critical eye at those who support a regime that would allow this to happen. Instead, it's just kind of this like, what are we going to do? But I think I would have just been like normal disappointed. This idea of the unquestioning Free Palestine refrain, as if there's a question here that can be answered in a way that doesn't sound completely psychopathic. Free Palestine means free Palestine. Am I crazy, Anthony? Does Free Palestine should we be questioning the refrain Free Palestine more so than we are doing? You tell me.
It sounds like he thinks the Free Palestine people should be asking questions, and what questions do they need to be asking?
Right. Well, and it seems like the questions he wants them to ask are, how come the hostages have not been returned? Which is a question.
Free Palestine, but not until we understand why the hostages have not been returned. Seems pretty cynical to me. That's a great chant. I mean, it's catchy. I'm down.
I like it. Put a beat behind it.
I'll lead it at the next thing.
Phil can do some drums. But
I mean, you guys have probably already talked about this multiple times on the podcast, but I mean, if you've been following this issue closely, you already know that the people in Palestine and Hamas have made multiple attempts to go to the negotiating table and get some kind of exchange for the hostages in terms of, either ownership of their land or
just a pullout.
A pullout, a ceasefire, something.
Yes.
And
by the way, they wanted to go to the negotiating table before October 7th too.
Yes.
That's what's never reported on.
Right,
Hamas has indicated willingness to negotiate along all kinds of internationally recognized lines for years.
Yeah,
Right.
and it also ignores the fact that while they're not politically necessarily interpreted as hostages per se, but Israel has tons of Palestinian prisoners in their prisons who they haven't charged, have not seen trial. But again, they're not considered to be hostages. They're just in the prison system, and because they're a legitimized nation, and they have all of the sort of benefits and aid of a first world country.
Yes.
It's just sort of perceived as like totally legal and fine and above board.
Yes, it's we have talked about it. It's administrative detention. Anyone in any of the occupied territories is not subject to civil law. They are subject to military law, which is arbitrary and based on what individual like military commanders say is the law. They can hold you for no reason. This is why it is categorized by every single human rights group in the fucking world as an apartheid state. This is why. And what's worse about it is like in terms of like, okay, if you want to like parse the meaning of the word hostage, and say, well, it doesn't count, because they may be held, extrajudiciously, but they're not there for the reason of hostage exchange. The truth of it is that first of all, yes, they are, and second of all, after October 7th, they started ramping up the administrative detention arrests that we're doing in the West Bank, specifically for the reason to have more Palestinians to use in trades for any possible diplomatic solution to the hostage issue. And like, so literally they did take hostages. They did literally, figuratively, all of that shit. So the idea that Thom Yorke is sitting here going like, you guys need to question why the hostages haven't been returned, as if we haven't all been openly discussing this for 20 goddamn months, dog. It's just like one of those things where at this point I'm like, I just flat out refuse to believe he doesn't know the answers to these questions, but that this was the answer he is the most comfortable with, of like, oh, well, the reason is because Hamas is evil, because freeing Palestine is a dog whistle for, destroying the Jews or whatnot. And he doesn't want to question it further. And it's so disappointing.
I do want to say that the best lyric of all time featuring the word hostage, I'm going to say, is Busta Rhymes from Everything Remains Raw, I think 1995, from his debut, The Coming, when he says, I will endanger your species like an ostrich, hold you hostage, and crazy feed you swine sausage. I've always greatly enjoyed that line.
Busta had bars. People forget.
He had bars, yeah. Before he roided up, I was a big fan.
Yeah. But yes, he then goes on to talk about social media witch hunts. Nothing new on either side, pressuring artists and whoever.
Burn the witch. Isn't that
yeah, burn the witch hunt.
I do like that track.
It's a great song. I've been yelling at him to record it for years. And then he did, and now
that's on Moonshaped Pool, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes, yeah. As well as True Love Waits, he finally put down on wax. So social media witch hunts pressuring whoever they feel like that week to make statements, etc. Do very little except heighten the tension, fear, and oversimplification of what are complex problems that merit proper face-to-face debate by people who genuinely wish the killing to stop and an understanding to be found. This kind of deliberate polarization does not...
I think we should stop there for 1 second, just because even in my own video, I just thought that was a hilarious line, because I was thinking like, when are we holding this debate? When is this debate being held? Who's getting engaged in the debate? Who's volunteering for it? Is Tom Waits getting Thom Yorke getting involved, or is Tom Waits getting involved?
Sure.
I was thinking of Tom Waits because he said True Love waits.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know who else waits? Tom.
Right. But like, when is the debate happening? Is there going to be like, a Netanyahu versus whoever else we put up there debate? And is that going to end it all? Do we just need a few face-to-face debates to happen? And then this will all just sort of be open and shut?
Right. And beyond
moderated by Piers Morgan, I'm sure.
Right.
Yes,
exactly. It'll be on his show. It'll be on prime time.
Yes. Yeah. And what's worse is that like this idea of like, these things are things that should be happening. These discussions should be happening face to face and, by implication, in private with people who you trust. And it's like, I don't know how you can sit there and think this is the moral position to have. Like, this is the position that you have. What if you had this position during the war on terror? Like, guys, there's a lot of complex issues going around in terms of whether or not we should invade Iraq. What we should be having is face-to-face discussions.
Think about how quickly the war in Vietnam or slavery could have ended if instead there was a nationwide whisper campaign. Just people going back and forth like, what's really fucked up?
Yeah.
This whole slavery thing's pretty bad.
Someone should do something.
I'm not totally convinced, but maybe we could meet for drinks next week, and you could calmly explain your position to me.
I was gonna be against slavery, but then Roger Waters wrote an email I didn't like. And so now I think I'm just gonna kind of let it happen. I think that's fine.
That's kind of another, and maybe we'll get into this more by the time you're done.
Yes,
reading all of this, but like one thing that like has kind of struck me since I've done my video about this, and now that you're reading it again, is like so much of it feels like it's coming from this place of like, I'm just going to dig my heels in, and I'm just going to be pissed off about it because you told me what to do.
Yes,
and it has nothing to do with him feeling any particular way about anything. It just comes from this incensed feeling of like, I don't want to be told what to do.
Yes.
And I don't want to be told what to say. And just, and I'm going to just act staunchly in opposition to what I'm being told to do just because I'm being told to do it, not on the principle of what it stands for or the severity of the situation. It just seems like so...
Yes.
It seems so self-absorbed. It doesn't seem like it has anything to do... I mean, even if like... Even if I was like of the position... that Israel is completely in the right with everything that they're doing, I wouldn't come away from this feeling like, oh yeah, Thom really cares about the well-being of the Israeli people and the way I see things over here. He doesn't seem like he gives a fuck about any of it.
Yes.
It just sort of seems like I don't want to hear about anything that I don't want to already say or think.
Yes. And the worst part of it is just the last thing I'll read from this long screed, whiny ass screed is he in the seventh frame, he goes, I sympathize completely with the desire to, quote, do something when we are witnessing such horrific suffering on our devices. But
it completely makes sense, he says.
I now think it is a dangerous illusion to believe that reposting or one or two messages are meaningful, especially if it's to condemn your fellow human beings. There are unintended consequences.
Right.
I'm sorry.
That's why Roger Waters posts 20-minute videos every 2 days. That's why people dedicate themselves to speaking up. I mean, if you don't want to speak up, fine, but don't act like the only kind of advocacy is perfunctory, performative, expedient, and ultimately disposable virtue signaling, because there actually is a different kind of using your voice and using your platform that's possible if you have the courage and the moral will to do it, and if your conscience drives you to do it.
Yeah. I feel like this is a bit of a, I don't know, not to get like generational about it, but I feel like this is a bit of a Gen X thing, just the perception that any and all sort of like, it's okay. It's okay. Well, I mean, you're one of the good ones, and and there are many, but like I've heard simultaneously from a lot of Gen Xers who just sort of seem to be jaded.
Yeah,
I think you just reach a certain. I don't even think it's a Gen X thing as much as you just reach a certain age, and there are some people who stay passionate and stay hopeful and stay engaged, and there are some people who just get really jaded and they're like, nothing means anything, and it doesn't really matter what you do or what you say. Everything is just going to play out the way it's going to play out, whether I want it to or not. So don't annoy me into standing for anything, because it's all just going to be whatever at the end of the day.
Teenage angst has paid off well, and some of us are bored and old.
Right. And so I think he's kind of like succumbed to that mindset where it's like, it's a bit of nihilism. Yeah. And he's like, it doesn't matter anyway. And he's just being very cynical about it. And when he sees other people engaging in it because they're actually passionate and they actually believe in something, he's like, oh, well, you're just being annoying and doing a
And-
social media witch hunt and
Right.
just being dismissive about it. It's just dismissive.
Right. And it's so annoying because it comes from this place of like judgment of those who are doing what he considers to be merely symbolic acts of solidarity, which is like, I think a critique that can be levied, but only by someone who is doing something. You can't do nothing. You can't criticize the idea of doing something. I understand. I sympathize with the wanting to do something. He put that in quotes. I can only imagine is that under a freaking video of his, someone said, Tom, could you please do something? And he immediately spun out like, oh, do what? Like unfurl a Palestinian flag like Imagine Dragons? Fuck them and fuck Imagine Dragons. It's like, this is such a weak, like, it's a weak statement, but it's also a weak-minded critique. It like comes from a place of just like, don't bother me. And not only is it nihilism, but it's just pure reactionary, like in its like dictionary definition form. Like,
do you think he's on a Morrissey track? Do you think he's on? Do you think he's on like a John Lydon Morrissey like plot arc where he's gonna?
I mean,
I don't know about that. I mean, like as boneheaded as Morrissey is, the things he says actually comes from a place of passion. Like,
Yeah,
I think
true.
Tom Yorke is just self-interested and apathetic.
Yes, I think that's right. I think that's
like Morrissey actually believes the dumb stuff that he says.
Right, right.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, which is like, at least he gets credit for that level of like human interaction, I guess. Like that, he's at least believes in something outside of himself for a second, even if it's the wrong thing. Like
Sure.
that, and I'm sorry, but like that's also what like being more than just like a self-involved narcissistic rock star means. And this has been the pedestal that he's been on for so long with, Thom Yorke, that he spends most of that thing just saying, I figured you guys knew by now, if you've listened to any of my music, that of course I am good. And it's like, yeah, but that's what I thought too, until you decided to be completely silent about a genocide. It's strange.
Yeah,
We're not
like I said
crazy.
in my video, like I and many other people we all agree, we all had the same read, which is why there was an expectation that you might want to say something.
Yes.
Well, and speaking of listening to his music closely, maybe just to close this segment, Anthony, we were wondering if you would just take a gander at some of our attempts at Radiohead lyric plays on words and puns around this topic. And you get to choose. Do you want to tier them or do you want to rate them out of 10?
I guess we could try a 10 rating.
A 10
let's
rating?
do
All right.
it. Hell yeah.
So
Okay.
I want you to be honest, if you're feeling a light 6, say so. If it's a strong 8, let us know. If it's a 0, we'll take it. Some of these come from us, some of these come from listeners and followers, but here we go. Matt, you want to start us off?
Okay. 2 + 2 = 5, unironically. All right. Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh yeah, that one's a 7. That one-
Okay,
that's
all
a
right,
7.
all right,
That's
hell
cute.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
cute.
All right. My Iron Dome.
Okay, we could do that one's like an 8.
That's good. All
That's an
right.
8.
Let's see. Weird misses arpeggi.
That one's like a 5.
I don't like that we have to rate them.
no.
Yeah, but you do it. You know what? I can
Yeah.
handle it. I can handle
Yeah.
it.
Exit music for a fan base.
Oh, fuck. I had that.
Okay, that one's a 7 too. Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Mine was exit music for a band I once respected, but that's yours is better. Okay. Instead of true love waits, I wrote boo, bruv hates.
Okay, that's like a 3. That's like
Fitter, happier, and more reductive.
oh, okay.
That's a little bit more cerebral, but
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. That one's like a 6. That one's decent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, what I'm sure. Oh, mixed message is mitosis.
All right, this is
God damn it.
That's a deep cut that doesn't cut that deep.
yeah, let's say that one's like a 4.
All right.
And my last one, fake drastic please.
That one's not hitting for me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'm still in the game.
Yeah, I suppose a little bit.
Okay. All right. My last one. Oh God, this sucks. All right. It is the song it's I Will. It is no dream. So that's
That's a
that's a quote.
That's a Herzl
from,
reference.
It's from Herzl. I will, if you will it is no dream. Anthony, not everything we do can be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I also have where I end and I dig in. Huh?
Okay. All right. That one's like
Someone on my Instagram said, and I like this just for the absurdity of it, paranoid apartheid.
Yeah, that's cute.
Oh, okay. That's like a 9. That's
Oh,
like,
whoa!
that's like a 9.
All right,
That's
tell
like
the
a 9.
Instagram guy.
We are
that-
lapped by one of our Instagram followers. Excellent.
Oof. Yeah. Anyways, it is all incredibly annoying. It is all incredibly disappointing, and I appreciate you, Anthony, for doing a video about it and talking about it, because I've seen the mean comments about it where people they're mad at you for hating their best boys Radiohead, and I
Yeah,
guess
there were a lot of those. Also, did anybody say Kid Apartheid? Did anyone say
Someone
that?
did, yeah. Someone did.
Okay, good.
That's very good. And Amnesiac stands by itself.
Yeah, there's a
Right,
bunch
right.
there's a bunch of ones that are just straight up like life
no,
in a glass house.
Matt, your best one. You didn't say it.
What was it? I
How
forgot
to
it.
disappoint completely.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That one's
I think
good
that's
too.
very
That
strong.
one's like an
Yes.
8. Yeah, no, that one's good.
Yeah. There's a bunch. I mean, literally, there's just song titles that work.
Let down, yeah.
Let Down, Life in a Glass House. Dollars and cents, dollars and centrist, really.
And fade out.
Yeah, fade out. Anyways, I do appreciate you talking about it, and I appreciate you talking to us about this whole thing. It's been really cool getting to talk to you, and again, I do really appreciate you being someone who is not in the explicitly in the politics space, and being someone who's going to stand on principle, especially given all of the retribution from the music industry for artists who have said literally anything about Palestine. Yeah, it's nice to to see someone who is not who's going to support those artists, including Macklemore. You did a whole video on how it was unfair how Macklemore was being attacked for saying he hated America. And I thought that was cool.
And look, I mean, I feel like I am in a unique position because I sort of climbed the ladder to where I am independently. So it's like I'm not necessarily beholden to anybody per se when it comes to speaking out about something like this. That's not the same thing for a lot of artists. And I, sympathize with a lot of creators out there who may want to say something but don't or won't because they're afraid of some kind of repercussions. I'm not of the opinion that every single artist who's out there who's seeing this needs to say something. I feel like that's not even necessarily entirely necessary in an age where this has just caught on so much like wildfire over social media that there's more awareness of it than ever. What more awareness is going to be brought to it by Thom Yorke saying something, at this point. Yeah. The biggest kind of takeaway for me from the statement that he posted, and I said this in my video, I'll say it again, is why'd you even say anything?
Yeah.
What are you even clarifying here? It's like, I feel like at this point, you should have just continued saying nothing.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been a greater benefit to you than coming out there and putting out whatever the heck this is. Yeah.
100%.
To me, up until this point, or since October 7th, the artists, who I felt most passionately about, saying something, and a vast majority of that I can think of off the top of my head that kind of fit this bill have, are, the ones who up until this point have really made a name for themselves, building a brand on, we address social issues in our music. That's our whole thing. Mm-hmm. We're a social issues kind of band.
Yes.
And, are kind of artist. And, to be that sort of artist and build your whole world around that. And then, when we reach this moment in time and you say nothing whatsoever, that's kind of disappointing. That's kind of like, well, what's going on? Like, I mean, I don't think I or anybody who reasonably cares about you and your music is expecting you to come out here and with, one single statement, save the world and change the whole thing. But like, it's kind of odd for you to be the person who's like, yeah, I'm aware. Right. And, and then when this pops up, you're like, oh, actually, what is this? I don't know.
I'm woke.
I sleep.
I'm asleep.
I sleep.
I'm sleepy.
Go to sleep.
Yeah, and all the more when you contrast it with groups that, I mean, I don't know Massive Attack's history of political statements, but they didn't have to, based on their reputation, come out and say anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
but they
sure.
did,
right?
Yeah. And Dave Matthews Band sure as hell didn't. Dave Matthews didn't have to come out and say anything.
Yeah. My opinion on Dave Matthews Band was not going to change over the next several years, whether or not Dave came out and said anything.
Right.
Correct.
And like when Imagine Dragons originally came out, and we're kind of like, yeah, we're kind of ambivalent when it comes to the topic of playing in Israel. I was like, I mean, okay, that's kind of them though. I'm not really surprised that Imagine Dragons wouldn't really care.
Right.
I'm more surprised by and impressed by kind of the turnaround of them being like, actually, this does seem to be like a really serious issue, and we're going to, at least show some sympathy for it.
Yeah.
That to me says like, wow, this band that everybody shits on actually has like some character.
Right. And it's also like, if it is something that you do agree is, Thom Yorke doesn't say it's a genocide or ethnic cleansing, but he talks about it being, sort of a moral and humanitarian catastrophe. If it is something that if that's what you think, then at the very least, looking at Imagine Dragons, waving a Palestinian flag, as symbolic as it might be, you can at least understand, like, well, that sounds like it's good for the morale of the people who are fighting against this apartheid regime, are fighting against.
Exactly. And I feel like if you had, a heart in your chest, that's sort of the conclusion that you would come to, regardless of the immediate, sort of a outcome of making such a statement. It's like, the only way in which you would prevent yourself from getting there is if, again, you were like completely cynical. And you were like, none of it fucking matters anyway.
Yeah.
And everybody's bad, and everybody's just as bad as each other.
Yeah.
And
both
sides are terrible, and I'm just above the fray.
Yes.
And I think all of it's bad, and I don't endorse any of it, which, like, I just feel like that's a cop-out. That's kind of like
Completely.
a cop-out. We live in a world of shades of gray. And that's just like a cop out. Yeah,
completely. And it's hard to not look at that statement and kind of reframe most of the music that I've enjoyed as like being sort of as shallow as as that statement. And
Matt, I think as fans, there's something for the pop fan, the pop culture fan to own, at least in my psyche, which is, sure, I want Thom Yorke or someone like that to make a statement because I think it'll make a difference. But also, I want Thom Yorke to make a statement so I can continue telling myself that my parasocial connection with Thom Yorke and his music is super
based
valid
on
and important. Is based on something. You know what I'm saying? Like, that, like, it's the right thing to do to listen to Radiohead, so I can continue to feel good and associate good feelings with all the memories I have, all the drives I took listening to OK Computer or whatever. Like, and on a certain level, Thom Yorke does not owe me that. He may owe the world something, along the lines of what Anthony was just talking about, but he certainly does not owe us a continued fantasy about what we mean to him.
But this parasocial relationship that I was, fantasizing about is now been completely invalidated as the real parasocial relationship I have with Thom Yorke is being the guy who made him do the statement, and that fucking sucks. I just want to, oh god, I just want him to be good. Well, Anthony, thank you for coming on and talking with us. We really appreciate it and really appreciate your work, and we think you do great. And I'll let you know, when Daniel found out that you were down to come on, he texted melon, and I don't know what that means, but he assured me that he meant it with respect.
Yeah, watermelon's a Palestinian thing. So
there we go.
Hell yeah.
Exactly.
That's
it's
what
related.
I meant.
Got it.
That's what it is.
Where can people find your work?
Oh, on youtube.com/the needle drop, Google the words Anthony Fantano.
That's right.
Google the words bad music review or something. I don't know. Kanye West review.
Yeah.
Google Let's Argue.
Yeah.
Google Let's Argue.
Yeah.
Google Bill O'Reilly falafel. Google Jordan Peterson grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Google.
You've done a lot of videos.
Tons of stuff.
Absolutely.
Google that stuff. Yeah.
You should get into.
I'm not particularly impressed by someone making a video about my grandmother. You do not know her.
You don't know her. Check out his work, Anthony. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
And thank all of you out there for listening to another episode of Bad Hasbara. Patreon.com/Bad Hasbara. That's right. By the way, if you're watching this and listening to this right now, just so you know, Patreon, every week, you get a bonus episode,
Heck yeah.
including guests like this, like
Heck
Anthony fucking Fantano. So what are you waiting for? Join the Patreon. Do it. Now, patreon.com/Bad Hasbara.
What's next? We're going to have David Frick from Rolling Stone.
Probably.
Pauline Kael, the New York Times former film critic.
Yeah. One of those pitchfork guys talking about Animal Collective. I like Animal Collective.
The guy who gave Liz Phair's self-titled album a 0 out of 10 and then recanted 18 years later.
Or the guy at Pitchfork who did a review of Jet's first album, and instead of writing a review, he just inserted a video of a chimpanzee drinking his own urine. What if we get that guy? But
that guy really has a way with words.
Oh, doesn't he? That was my favorite review of all time. Again, patreon.com/Bad Hasbara. Please subscribe now. badhasbara@gmail.com for all your questions, comments, and concerns. All right, everyone. Thanks again so much for listening. And until next time, from the river to the sea.
We completely forgot Shawarma Police. Fuck me.
God damn it. That was a good one.
Jumping jacks was us. Push-ups was us. Krav Maga us. All karate us. Taking Molly us. Michael Jackson us. Yamaha Key